Hi, my name is Sebastian Attaway, and today I want to share with you a study that I just completed on the Corinthian Correspondence. Um, so I would like to first talk to you about the Corinthian church. We're all familiar with the book of First Corinthians and the epistle that Paul wrote to the Corinthian church, but what we must understand is that that epistle was not the first letter that was written to the Corinthian church. What we have learned is that 4 years prior, Paul spent 18 months establishing the, the church. You can read about that in Acts chapter 18, verses 1 through 17. Um, and so the people of Corinth, or the Corinthian church, were very familiar with Paul and Paul's teachings. And so when he wrote the epistle of First Corinthians, he had received a report from a member named Chloe that came and she shared with him the the problems that were going on, the deep divisions that were happening in the church. And so this disturbed Paul greatly, so much so that even while he was in Ephesus preparing to go on to his third missionary trip to Macedonia, he wrote the epistle or the letter of First Corinthians to the Corinthian church to address these different issues and divisions per se. Uh, so let's talk about the problems that were going on in the church. Like I mentioned, there were divisions. Paul addressed many issues related to life and doctrine in the church. Some of the examples that he was dealing with was the quarrels between one another, sexual immorality that was happening within uh, the church. There was lawsuits amongst each other that were happening as well. And then you had the issues with marriage and singleness going on in the church. Dealing with the marriage, there were people who were wanting to be married but yet practice celibacy. And, so he had to deal with those issues as well, and those that was choosing to be single just to be celibate. Uh, and so he addressed that as well. But also there was freedom in Christ. There was worship. There was divisions amongst the worship that was happening. There was divisions with the spiritual gifts, the misusing of the spiritual gifts in the church. So there was a lot that Paul was addressing within this letter. And as you read the letters, read that letter, you will see all the different topics and issues that Paul was addressing. Another thing that was important was the conduct in the church. Paul was emphasized the matter of Christian conduct in the local church. There was to be a certain way of carrying yourself in the church as a believer and a follower of Christ. So Paul was teaching them the Christian conduct in the local church. So the letter deals with these problems and addresses these problems, and so that's what Paul was doing. Okay. Then we move on to the influence. There was major influence in the city of Corinth. So when you look at Corinth, Corinth was a huge city. If you were to parallel it to today's cities, it would be like L.A. or New York, huge cities. So it was a huge metropolitan city. Um, the capacity in this city of Corinth was large. It had people from different backgrounds, different religions, and so there was a huge diversity that was going on in the city of Corinth. One of the big challenges for the church of Jesus Christ was that there were many temples in the city. There was idol worship, and it was prominent within the city. Um, you could go anywhere pretty much around the city and go into a temple that had different types of idol worship. And Aphrodite was a huge idol worship temple there in the city. So that was a challenge as well. So Paul was addressing the religious challenge with the church in Corinth. He embraced the challenge, though, because he didn't want the church in Corinth to run from the negative influence uh, or to exclude themselves from the influence, but he also wanted them to embrace it. He wanted them to be a part, be the light in the darkness, so to speak. Because he was telling them at the end that you were bought with a price, and so that being that you are not your own and your body's not your own, uh, allow your relationship with Jesus Christ to be the light or the driving component in this negative influential city. So that's what the letter to First Corinthians or to the Corinthian church was about. I hope you enjoyed this quick study and reflection. I hope you read First and Second Corinthians and learn more about what Paul was saying to the Corinthian church. Thank you for listening to me, and God bless.